I mean, would Anthony Joshua destroy Luis Ortiz in 3 rounds? That's really the question that you need to ask yourselves. I know, Eddie Hearn this past Friday when they interviewed him after the he had because he was in this fight with those I can never pronounce that guy's name. That exciting fight, the little dude. The dudes, I think he fights at like 115 anyway. The dude who lost to Estrada, you know what I'm talking about. They asked him about obviously the Luis Ortiz situation, and he said, amongst other things, he said that Anthony Joshua would freaking destroy Luis Ortiz in 3 rounds. And then of course he went on to say stuff like, this I'm sick and tired of these heavyweights out here and these managers or whatever going around making it seem like Joshua's the one ducking everyone when they're the ones who are shit scared of him. And then of course he went on to say that Joshua would destroy this man in 3 rounds. But would he actually destroy Luis Ortiz in 3 rounds? I don't think so. I personally don't think so. I think Joshua would be a lot more cautious against Luis Ortiz than he would be against Jarrell Miller, just because I think style-wise, Luis Ortiz is definitely more technical. He's a southpaw. He's more. I just think he's more of a guy that you need to be more wary of when you're fighting him, as opposed to someone like Jarrell Miller, because you know what Jarrell Miller is going to do. Jarrell Miller is going to have his high guard up and he's going to be coming forward. He's a lot easier to hit, as opposed to. I mean, just look at how cautious Deontay Wilder was in the beginning. Deontay Wilder was throwing the right hand and he was jumping out of the way. He knew that Ortiz was going to counter him, so he was being very cautious, Deontay Wilder. So I don't think he would destroy him in 3 rounds. I think it would be more of a case where the fight would go on for several rounds, and eventually, out of accumulation, Joshua would destroy Luis Ortiz. I think Joshua is the type of guy that if he hurts you, he goes after his opponents, right? Whenever he hurts a guy or drops him, I see him go for the finish. I don't think Joshua is a guy that like knocks people out with one punch. I think he's more of a guy that if he catches you clean now, he can knock you down. But I think he's more of a guy that punishes you. He beats you up, right? I mean, just look at the way he beat up Dominic Breazeau. He beat up Dominic Breazeau before stopping him. He dropped Vladimir Klitschko like 3-4 times before he stopped him. So that's how I always looked at Joshua. He's a guy that really breaks his opponent down. He breaks them down round after round, round by round by round. And that's how I see him beating Luis Ortiz. I think that in the first few rounds, it might be like a cautious fight. And I see both of them being cautious. I don't think Luis Ortiz would also be coming forward like the way he did against Brian Jennings. I think he would be showing a lot of respect towards Anthony Joshua. But I think eventually they would, as the fight goes on, they would eventually obviously take more risks. And it really depends who lands first. Who lands first. I do think that Luis Ortiz doesn't have the best chin. I've seen him get rocked by guys like Christian Hammer, guys like Deontay Wilder, Dave Allen. And I feel that if these guys are able to land on Luis Ortiz would be able, then AJ would be able to land on Luis Ortiz. And the question would be, would he be able to take his punches? How long would he be able to take his punches before he wilts by them? I think it'll be a case where you'll see Luis Ortiz bleeding from his nose. His eyes will be swollen. I mean, he'll have like a swollen freaking lip and shit. And I see him being backed up against the ropes as Joshua is like letting his bombs go off, and then the referee jumping in and stopping the fight. Like I said, I don't think that Joshua would just go in there against Luis Ortiz and just walk him down. I mean, no, and just try and blow him out of there in 1 round. I think Joshua is more of a guy that he's more of a, like, he takes his time, Joshua. Unless he's fighting, like, the only time I really saw Joshua blow guys out of there, like in 1-2 rounds, was early on in his career when he was first coming up, like when he was fighting very low quality guys. he had no respect for them because he knew these guys weren't no danger, so he would just come forward against them and throw bombs. But if you notice, as his competition has gotten, better and better and better, he's been a lot more, he takes his time more. He still fights with that aggressiveness where he tries to break his opponent down, but he's a lot more, he's a lot more wary now. He throws a jab, he takes his time. And that's why a lot of his knockouts, if you notice, a lot of AJ's knockouts happen in the second half of the fights. When he knocked out Dominic Brazil, it was the second half of the fight. After he broke down Brazil, when he knocked out Dillian White, it was the second half of the fight. After he broke down Dillian White, when he knocked out Vladimir Klitschko, it was the second half of the fight. After he broke down Vladimir Klitschko, when he knocked out Alexander Povetkin, it was the second half of the fight. After he broke down Alexander Povetkin. So this is like what I noticed with AJ is he tries to break his opponent down round by round by round, and then once he feels like okay they're there for the taking, then he starts being hella aggressive and he tries to knock them out. So that's what I see him doing to Luis Ortiz. I would predict a 7 to 10 round knockout from AJ against Luis Ortiz. What do you guys think though? Do you guys think that Anthony Joshua could destroy Luis Ortiz in 3 rounds? Let me know in the comment section. I really would like to know from you guys. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe as always, and I'm out.